Hi, I'm Lisa Hanna, and welcome to Psychology Matters. Today, my guest is Judy Jennings, author of Living with Lewy Body Dementia. And thank you for being with us today, Judy. I would like to first ask you a question regarding your beautiful cover of your book with an ice cream sundae and why you chose to put that on there as your artwork.
It was on purpose. Number one, my husband loved ice cream. The book is about him. It is honoring his life. And secondly, I would put him to bed at night, and after a very stressful day, which caregiving can be, I would go to McDonald's, I would order a hot fudge sundae, I would eat it and say, as long as God makes McDonald's hot fudge sundaes, I can do this one more day.
Oh, God bless you.
Thought that was appropriate.
That is. So a beautiful tribute to him as well as some comfort food for you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So the book is actually about a caregiver's guide in terms of your personal experience.
It is.
So why did you write the book other than, I guess, that?
Lewy body dementia is not well known, even in medical circles. And when I found out that this was indeed what he had, I had to figure out what to do with him by myself. I didn't get much help. And I did not want other caregivers to have to do this by themselves. So it is really my path for other people to follow and hopefully give their husbands, their spouses, their mothers, fathers, quality of life.
Absolutely. To educate the community. What are some of the symptoms of the disease, and what is it, I guess, exactly?
It looks like Parkinson's. There's the physical symptoms are the shaking of the hands, maybe the shuffling gait. A lot of the symptoms that Parkinson's is known for, Lewy body has. But unfortunately, it also is very similar to Alzheimer's. So there's Parkinson's and dementia all rolled up into one weird disease.
Okay.
If that was the only thing, it wouldn't be so important to know the diagnosis.
Okay.
But because there are unique symptoms for Lewy body dementia, it's really, really important for caregivers to find out if that indeed might be the diagnosis. There's a fluctuation of symptoms. With Parkinson's, what you have is what you have. They're going to be the same every day as long as they progress downward. With Alzheimer's. But with Lewy body, they may wake up in the morning and you think, wow, he's well. He doesn't have any problem. And then a week down the road, he's not able to do anything. I looked around one morning and my husband was reaching out to get a bread tie off the table and was about to put this bread tie in his mouth. And I had to stop him and make sure that he had things on the table that would keep him occupied, because he did not know many times what was good for him and what was not. And that's typical of dementia. The second thing that is so important to know about this is that people with Lewy body dementia are very sensitive to many drugs that would normally work with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And if they don't know, the family does not know this, it can cause catastrophic reactions.
Okay. So definitely it could cause, I think when we were talking before, even possible death or serious repercussions for the drug that is not appropriate for this diagnosis.
Exactly. And a caregiver needs to be an advocate, because we took Dean to a urologist, and he prescribed the typical not over the counter, but a drug that's very much used with urinary problems. And I said, is this going to work with his Parkinson's? He said, oh, I give that to Parkinson's people all the time. 2 pills, 1, 2. He was in the hospital.
Oh my goodness, okay.
And violent. His arms were flailing. He thought that the aliens were coming down. I needed to call the president. Wild-eyed. He was totally out of his mind with fear and terror. He was in the hospital 3 days until we cleaned it out of his system.
My goodness, yes.
And that's just one illustration. If someone is given a bad drug, and I'm not going to list drugs now because they always change, but the typical antipsychotic drugs can put someone with Lewy body in a coma.
Oh my goodness, okay.
So it's really, really important for people to know if the diagnosis is indeed Lewy body dementia.
Okay. And what was your experience then with healthcare professionals around this disease and dealing with Dean during this time?
It's better now. When Dean had this and he passed in 2010, the nurses had never seen it. The many doctors still today are not really familiar with it. And I always tell my people that I'm mentoring, they don't have to be an expert on drugs or on the disease, but they need to make sure that the medical person they're dealing with is an expert. And I tell wives, interview the doctor.
Yes.
Don't rely on the fact that he's in neurology. He may not have handled a lot of the Lewy body dementia patients and their situations. Is
it rare then? Is it a rare disease?
It sounds like it, but approximately a fourth of the people that are diagnosed with Alzheimer's really have Lewy body dementia.
Oh, okay.
It's misdiagnosed. And about a third of the people that have Parkinson's have Lewy body dementia,
okay.
but it's misdiagnosed.
I see.
So it is not infrequent, but it looks like it because it's attached. Another name is attached to the chart.
I see. Absolutely.
So it's,
yes. And so what advice would you give for a caregiver in dealing with LBD?
I would tell them to go to the Lewy Body Dementia Association website. That is lbda.org. And there is a listing for medications that are safe for Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, or Lewy body. Get informed. And if I could talk about the quality of life issue, I would say, yes, you have to be a caregiver and you have to be an advocate, but you have to be a wife. And have fun. And my main thrust with this book was to try to help people have an adventure with the disease.
Yes.
And that's not easy. Any dementia is very difficult to deal with for everybody involved. But I took my husband on a vacation in the car every 3 months. We would go to a condo. I'd set up his bedroom. He would have a change in scenery. I would have a change in scenery. And I tried to have him have the best 5 years of his life. And it took time on my part to organize it.
Certainly.
But I talk about that. Schedule in fun. It's important to schedule in fun. When we were just sitting around the house, we would play silly games. And at the time as the disease progressed, his dementia would not allow him to do very much. About all he could do would be to roll dice. So we would play games that we could do together. If we played trivia, I would put a question out, and then he and I would both answer it.
Okay.
And with Lewy body dementia, there were times that his mind was better than mine.
Okay.
So if
Interesting. Yes.
If I caught one of those days, I would ask him a question, and it would be in his wheelbase, and he'd answer it.
Wow.
And so we had fun with that.
Yes.
And when he got to the point where physically he was not as adept as he was before, I would maintain some quality for us by putting in a videotape for Dean Martin or Carol Burnett or something that was hilarious. And then we'd sit on the sofa and he'd put his arm around me and we would have a moment where he was the husband, I was the wife, we were still best friends, and maintained some quality where I did not have to be the boss all the time.
The caretaker all the time.
The caretaker, telling him what to do and how to do it.
Yes, yes. And to be the wife and instead of the caregiver. Absolutely, absolutely. Are there any other topics around the book I've not asked before we move on to your second book? Anything you'd like to share?
The book was a labor of love. I didn't know whether anybody would read it, but I've had comments from people amazingly around the world. I've had people from Spain, from Lebanon, in the Middle East, where this disease is worldwide. And unfortunately, it's confusing for people worldwide. And it's been such a satisfying experience to be able to communicate with other families, and they'll send me emails and say, oh, you understand, you know what I'm going through. And I do, because I was there.
Yes.
And it's been something that people have told me that they have regifted my book over and over and over, because the daughter might get it, and then she gives it to the mother, and the mother gives it to the other three sisters, and then Aunt Susie has to read it. So one lady sat down with me to have coffee, and she said, I don't want you to see the book. Well, it was so dog-eared and so written on, because everybody wrote comments on it. So it was truly a blessing for me that I could see somebody using it to their advantage.
Certainly, and it does involve the whole family, the entire family, an extended family.
An extended
I know
family.
with my own experience of caretaking with my mother, friends and neighbors, I would call on to help. And sometimes it takes, you know, a large effort to call on someone for help. But yes, extended family to help get out and go have a lunch by yourself, or even run to the grocery store. It always helps to have a team of people to assist around caretaking, indeed. Absolutely. I did read also many reviews of your book and how you have helped so many people in regards to LBD. So thank you for writing that.
If I had to give one comment, well, two probably, for families, for caregivers that help them with their mental health, jot things down, and especially jot the funny things down. If it was funny at the time, put it in a notebook, because those are the pearls that you're going to remember later when you're looking back and you're thinking, that was a terrible, awful, rotten experience that I had. But then you think of the funny things. And at one point, when Dean was having trouble with his balance, he could take a shower if he was up, and I didn't have to be right there with him. There were days that I had to be right there with him, but on this particular day, I did not. And I was right there at the sink, because if he dropped the soap, he would think he needed to bend down and pick it up. And we had a shower on a hose, and I'm paying no attention to him, and all of a sudden he turns the water hose up over the shower.
Oh my goodness.
And drenched me, absolutely drowned me. Dean, what are you doing? He said, oh, did I turn this the wrong way? I said, well, yeah, you got the pictures and the ceiling and the window and the floor. And I got him out of the shower. He is laughing so hard. I almost couldn't get him out of the shower. I am laughing so hard, I can't get him into the bedroom. So it's those little things that you need to put down on paper, because it's the pearls.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you find yourself looking back on those notes or memorabilia on occasion to, you know?
I do. At this point in time, I've put many of them into the book, so they are in my mind forever. But yes, and I recommend it to any wife, is to keep that journal.
Absolutely. So would you like to share with us about your second book?
My second book is I have a picture of this is the cover, as it will be.
The Wonderful World of Widowhood. Yes.
Except when it isn't.
Okay. Except when it isn't.
And it is a story that begins after Dean passed, and my journey out of the desperate times of being a widow, of seeing myself as a widow and understanding what other people saw in me as a widow, because it isn't the same. And then coming to the point where I feel I'm a better version of who I was before.
Yes.
You can't go back.
Indeed.
You can't be the person you were before you got married. You have to recreate yourself. And I have the butterflies because there are several of us that are mentoring each other in a widow's support group. And I like to think of the red door because we have many doors in our path as we go through life.
Exactly.
We can choose to go through, we can choose not to go through. But it's hopefully going to be as valuable to the widow as my caregiving book was to other caregivers. So it will be out within a month.
Okay. And where can we find both of these books?
I published with Westbow Press, and Judy Towne Jennings is the name that would be the accounts for the books. And it can be also ordered from any bookstore.
Okay. Okay, very good. And any other thoughts you'd like to share? I'm not sure. I'm just make sure I've covered all the points today about your books. So, is there anything else you would like to add around your experience, or would like to educate the audience and family members out there? Any other thoughts?
A diagnosis is important, and being an advocate is important. Understanding that the symptoms are unique, and understanding that your pharmacist is your best friend.
Okay.
Because combinations of drugs can create problems, and the pharmacist is the one to best sort that out. And then, besides journaling and talking to God, have fun.
Absolutely. We were talking about that a little bit last night. Would you like to share with us your experience with the notes, the journaling that you were taking?
I can do that.
Yes.
When I would put Dean to bed at night, I would go down and dump everything into the computer. I would put feelings and thoughts and everything I did with him that a caregiver might have to do, and just purged the day into the computer. And then I just leave my hands on the keys, and whatever words got typed, I would look at later and I'd think, ooh, where'd that come from? That's really pretty good. And the thoughts that came after I quit typing, my thoughts, were, if I could describe the person, the spiritual entity, whatever it was in my computer, and I'm going to call it God, it was the best God, the best father image, the best friend I could have had at that time of my life. And I call it journaling, and I've done it for many, many years, and I'm never disappointed. It's always loving, caring, sometimes admonitions. One of them I can remember is, be kind to your husband, words really hurt. And I don't think I would have said that to myself. So it's a very powerful technique that I found worked well for me.
Indeed, yes. And journaling, I think in general, and finding that spiritual support during those times when I know it had to been quite a journey of up and down, emotionally, mentally exhausting, as well as physically at times, when you're the only one, you know, so indeed, certainly. Okay.
It is a unique experience that I can truly say I did by accident. I didn't know I was doing a good job with Dean. I'm a physical therapist, so I had a pretty good idea of how to be a caregiver. But it was so different being the caregiver than trying to tell people how to be a caregiver.
Definitely a difference.
Not really having anybody give me a lot of help. I guess I did do a pretty good job. And for us as a couple, I would say that his dementia years were some of the best years of our marriage.
Okay.
I gave him undivided attention. I loved him unconditionally, and he responded in kind to me. So we were in it together as a team, and I don't know how that happened because I generally wasn't. I was more of a general Judy PT as opposed to somebody who played a team approach.
Absolutely.
And it turned out to be a good experience for us. Everyone's different. Every marriage is different, so I can't guarantee that if somebody reads this book, they're going to have the life that Dean and I had. But I hope that I have put things in here that will give other people peace of mind and quality of life.
Well, that's certainly an inspiring experience, especially given the challenge of families going through what you went through. So to find those happy moments and those joyous moments when you can, and hang on to those, and journal.
And journal.
And journal.
And journal.
Okay. Any other closing thoughts? I think we just have a little bit of time. To families out there that are dealing with LBD or terminal illnesses for that matter, in terms of, from caregiving standpoint or resources for them to educate themselves, your books.
There are several diseases that look like Parkinson's that are not. They're very fast moving. They don't respond to drugs. They're unique in they have Parkinsonian symptoms, but they have other unique symptoms, and they're not well known. So if it looks strange and you do research, don't be afraid to ask the physician many questions so that you really get a good diagnosis that fits your spouse's needs. And
do you think now with the research and now that this disease, more education and awareness has been made around that there are there physicians and medical community that are specializing now in?
More so. Gerontologists are better at that. Neurologists around the country are becoming more geared into it with conferences that I know are going on. Even around the world, there are some centers. There's a center in Scotland that has done a lot of research with Lewy body. It sometimes is called dementia with Lewy bodies. It sometimes is called Parkinson's disease dementia or Alzheimer's dementia with Lewy bodies. Lots of different names. It's not just Lewy body dementia, and that's also confusing to some families.
I could see absolutely where that would be confusing. Absolutely. And again, making sure that you do have this correct diagnosis because of the treatment or potential repercussions from having the incorrect treatment.
Yes, exactly.
Indeed. Okay. Well, we want to share the book again, Living with Lewy Body Dementia, One Caregiver's Personal In-Depth Experience. We can find it again on
any bookstore can order it, or Westbow Press.
Okay. As well as The Wonderful World of Widowhood, except when it's not.
I do have a sense of humor that living with Lewy body dementia has instilled in me that I did not have before.
I'm Lisa Hanna, and thank you for joining us on Psychology Matters. Look us up on YouTube or Facebook or Psychology Matters TV on NECAT. Let us know your thoughts and opinions. We'd love to hear from you.